KKJO a lot because I was always into rock and roll.
Oh, yeah.
As far as I remember, that was the only rock and roll station in St. Joe, wasn't it?
Yeah, at that point.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
But we were already gone, yeah, when you worked out there.
That was right on the, wasn't that right on the Belt Highway?
Just north of.
And a big glass front.
Yeah.
I remember it as a
Yeah,
kid.
they call it the Showcase Studio.
Yeah.
The big deal was.
I remember seeing it.
Yeah.
It sticks out in my mind, but.
Yeah, people would pull off the shoulder there and watch you work and wave at you and do all this other crazy stuff.
Yeah.
One of the things that happened when the streaking was going on is the full-time guy who worked evening 7 to midnight, he was promoting a streak off for Sunday, this coming Sunday on the Belt Highway, like at 8 o'clock. And so that wasn't his night to work. It was the weekend guy was working. He didn't know anything about the whole deal coming up. And they had cars backed up, probably for a good half a mile. I mean, people were just stopping in the middle of the 4-lane Belt Highway, stopping their cars and getting out to see what was going on. And they had the police out there, and we got in all kinds of trouble. And we were not allowed to say the word streak or play Ray Stevens' The Streak song.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because of the problems that caused as far as traffic.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Then one morning they had one of the sororities at Central. They had some girls come out there, and they were in kind of like little waitress type uniforms. They came out there with donuts or something, supposedly, to serve the disc jockey. So they did that. They had to do it as a stunt. And then we made some mention of it on the air, and a week or so later, some guys got drunk over in Kansas because you could drink at 18th, and they came out there. They decided they wanted to streak in front of the radio station at 3 or 4 in the morning. Little known to them, across the street was a drive-in restaurant that was closed in, and happened to be a police car sitting over there in the shadows.
Oh.
And saw it. They came out there, and the rest of the guys towed their car away. And I was told that one of the guys had already committed to go into the military, but the military refused him after that because they considered that to be a morals charge. So.
Wow.
Stuff you do when you're a kid, you never feel the consequences.
Yeah, that's about that. It ruined his military possibilities for a military career, didn't it?
Sure did.
Something like that, man. You never know. Crazy. All right, so going back to KUSN and working with Dad and everything. So, did you work hand in hand with him, or were you guys just shift? You had a shift, he had a shift, or were you guys ever working?
When he was doing mornings and I was in college, I did news in the morning. So he was in one room and I was, the room next to him through the window.
Mm-hmm.
So we could kind of see what each other was doing, and we'd be asked back and forth, over the intercom, or I'd go in the control room and bother him if there was no news going on.
Yeah.
So that's the only time we really worked the same shift was when I was doing the news and he was doing morning.
So you were, but okay. So anyway, stories. Got any good stories that we can share?
Well, some would probably should not to share.
Yeah, there's probably more of those.
Well, yeah.
Could be.
Yeah, let's see. One time I remember. Well, we used to party up there on Friday and Saturday nights at the Howard building. There was a lot of partying going on.
Yeah.
And your dad was the primary orchestrator of the festivities.
I'm sure.
And he used to like to drink Jack Daniel's Black Label. That was Jack Black and Coke, if I remember. I'm not sure if that was what he mixed it with or not, but that's what I learned. That's what I learned to drink it with.
Yeah.
And so I remember one time the building was old since the KFEQ had been in it 30 years before that. So he gets the idea. They go out and get a couple of gallons of brown paint. They decide they're going to paint the floor, or the 5th floor of the outbuilding. So everything's going well. They were painting and drinking a little bit more, and paint some and drink some more. And next thing you know, they got all the way down the end of the hall, and they painted themselves as far away from the door to get out of the building as possible. They were in the back room of the FM transmitter. So they had to wait several hours. And then
Wow.
finally tracked out through the wet paint, otherwise they were painted themselves into a corner, as they say.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
I remember another time I went to work after they moved to the new studios out on Leonard Road. And if you looked at the building on the outside, it looked like whoever built it kind of took the basic idea of what a Pizza Hut used to look like, the shape of it, with the roof tilted and all of that. And at the front door, it was regular business type door with glass on both sides of it, and a commercial door. And so there was a poured concrete stoop there, kind of like a little porch. It was about 6 inches off the ground, and then the parking lot, if I recall, might have still been gravel. At best, it was asphalt. So I went to go to work on one Saturday morning, and I always played a little close because Friday nights, you know, I'd been partying or doing something for myself. Went out there, and there was a Volkswagen Bug parked sideways on that cement slab in front of the door, so I couldn't get into the building. So I didn't know what the heck was going on, so I start pounding on the door, and your dad comes out, points me to the back of the building, because they had a back entrance to the building, brought you up through the basement. His brother was in town, so they got loaded and decided that would be a cool thing to do. Let's pick this car up and put it up there on the.
I wonder if Uncle Mel would remember that.
Probably.
Yeah, because he drove an orange Beetle
Yeah.
when he was
I
in
don't
college.
remember what color it was, but
Yeah,
I
it was
remember
orange.
small enough, the two of them.
Yeah, it was orange. Because Dad ended up with that Beetle
did he?
later on down. Yeah,
Oh,
later on down the road he did.
well, I remember when we were moving from the Howard building out to the new studios, he had a big green Cadillac, if I remember the color of it. You know, it was about 50 yards long.
Yes,
at least.
exactly.
And so he had an AM/FM radio in the car. And most people were doing FM then. It was starting to come around. In Kansas City, had KFKF. It was FM at night, country. And so he had a radio, and he liked to listen to KFKF at night, other than what KUSN was doing, because he knew basically all the commercials and
Right, yeah.
nothing new would happen. So we were taking some records from the Howard building out to the new studios. And so we had the whole car loaded up. And I can't remember who was, I know I was with him, I think maybe Bill Price. Your dad was driving. And we were driving out there, and the further we got from the Howard building, the closer to the new station, the more staticky the radio started sounding. This hissing noise in the signal, we thought, because he had the back speakers on.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody turns around and looks, and what happened was they had one of these big, tall fire extinguishers back in the day that you had to turn over. That had acid and soda at the top of it. So somebody had put that in the back. The daggone fire extinguisher turned over and was filling up the whole back seat of the car with.
That green Cadillac?
Yeah. That's
Never
what
heard
the
that.
hissing was. It was coming out of the fire extinguisher.
I never heard that story.
Yeah, I guess he and your mom spent most of the next day trying to get that out of the car.
I guess. No, I don't remember that at all. Never heard that story. I can't remember a whole lot.
You mentioned Klein Motors a while ago. Dusty and I did a commercial for Klein Motors. Dad brought the
Sure
little
did.
reel-to-reel home.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
We went in the bathroom where it was quiet.
Uh-huh.
Klein has cute, keen, clean, fine Klein cars.
That's it.
And,
Yeah.
and we did the voiceovers for him, and then he took it back to work, and
That's
They-
cool.
Dubbed them
we
in.
were big hits at Sherwood Elementary,
I
because
think
we had
nobody
our
knew-
own
I
commercial.
don't even know
We had our own commercial on the
Anybody knew who
radio.
we were, but or who did it. But yeah, I mean, we did. and It was cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were little boys. You know.
And it's funny how I still remember it. It clicks in my head
Yeah.
the minute you said Klein Motors.
Well, you're talking about snow and the bad weather conditions. I know I had to work New Year's Eve one year. We signed off at 11 at that point. So your dad bought me a bottle, so something to keep me company while I was working. And it was snowing like a son of a gun, and so all the disc jockeys were down at New Orleans Lounge, because that was one of the big places with live music. It wasn't country, but occasionally they had country people there, and they had the Ponderosa, which was next door, and then on the second through the third and fourth floors was hotel.
Okay.
And this was left over from the days when the train station used to be down in that area. And so they were all down there, and they said, well, come on down after you get off. So here I was, underage, with carrying this big bottle of booze, walking during a snowstorm all the way from downtown to the New Orleans Lounge, which had to be 3/4 or a mile away from there.
Yeah.
Just walking down there to continue the party.
Hoping, I mean, I guess it's a good thing cop didn't drive by or whatever.
Well, we tended to know all of them.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Because I think he came with the idea of a salute to the policeman's salute, and so once per shift or twice per shift we go and salute, Sergeant Ray Carter or whatever. Or
That's how you got to know
patrolman,
Pat Cobb.
I was going to say, yeah. I know they
I
use it.
remember Pat Cobb.
Yeah,
As
chief of police. So
Yeah.
once you know him, man, you ain't going to hit
well,
something.
I mean, there's nothing really bad. I mean, you
No,
don't do anything
no.
immoral or
Right.
it was just stuff when you're drinking, you do crazy things.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And the Frog Hop used to be notorious for that.
I remember the frog hop. I remember we'd go out there. I don't know if Jimmy did. I guess he did. I don't know.
Yeah, I met Kenny Price at the Frog Hop one time.
But we'd go out there when the Blue Boys were in town.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But we'd have, I think it's like every 3 or 4 weeks there'd be a country artist there. Barbara Mandrell used to be there. We had her out 3 or 4 times before she was ever big. She had a national contract, but she wasn't anything. And then obviously she became a big deal in country music. But out there, what you did, you brought your own alcohol in. They didn't have a liquor license, and you have to go to the back of the building, and they sold your mixes.
Condiments.
Condiments,
Yeah.
They sold ice and your 7-Up and Coke or ginger ale or whatever you wanted. So that's how they got around that.
Yeah, I remember the frog hop very well.
Yep.
Oh yeah. And so
Yeah, didn't we look it up?
Yeah, we tried.
Like
We looked it up last.
store or something now or something.
Yeah, it's not there anymore.
the building's still there. It's like a carpet and flooring
Yeah.
store now.
Yeah.
But they had these. The ceiling had all these metallic leaves on the top that, with the circulation blowing in, the air conditioning stuff, the leaves were blowing in.
Okay.
It was kind of an interesting setup.
I don't remember that, but hey, is KKJO? Are they still
They're still
around?
They're still there. KFEQ bought the company that owned KKJO, and KFEQ I think has an FM of their own now, and KKJO has a couple of FM low power things. So they have like 5 or 6 signals in St. Joe out of the KFEQ and KKJO, and KUSN got sold. The FM KJO bought the KUSN's FM, and then KUSN was gospel music for a while.
Okay.
And taped religious programming, and then they did oldies for a while, and then the guy that bought it was just an individual. He sold it to KFEQ because they wanted to get the FM. Somehow it had to do with the licensing of the station.
What was the receptionist's name at KUSN when it was out there at that new building?
Eleanor Shepard.
Eleanor.
There you go.
She died of something?
She died within the last 5 or 6 years. The last time I ran into her was out at East Hills in the mall. One day I was out at Penny's, and she was down just walking through Penny's in the clothing section, and still had on the blonde wig she'd had for
I remember that.
time from back in the day.
I don't remember
She
that.
was very
Out at the radio station on Leonard Road. It was kind of low off the highway. We had a lot of wild weed growing out there, wildwood weed.
Oh. Go ahead.
So
I've heard about this.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, from Dad.
I heard it too.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, tell it. I want to hear yours.
So anyhow, you get the idea that, I've got some weed growing back there. We ought to do something with it. So we had the old AM transmitter building, or the AM's, there was a transmitter building for the FM, and the AM was right in front of the studios, and they had these big old tubes that are about that big around, about that tall. They put out just a ton of heat, a lot of heat. And so Stan would go out there and harvest some stuff, and he'd go up, and at night after it was signed off, he'd go up, and we'd open the back of the transmitter, turn it upside down, and tie it to the top of the transmitter, and then we cured it that way.
Yeah.
And so after we cured it, then we had to do something with it.
Yeah, of course.
So we put it. We had some old metal office desks that we moved out from the old building. We were into modular furniture in the offices, so we had these desks downstairs. So we filled up these desks with all the wildwood weed that was all dried out. So we didn't think anything of it, and the owner, Warren Reiner, came out one Saturday and had some business person that he knew came out, was interested in buying these desks from him. So he goes downstairs and was showing the guy the desk and all that. So they go and pull out a drawer.
Could imagine.
All kinds of grass comes flying out of there. And Reiner was about to kill us all. He wanted all of us fired.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and your dad saved our jobs, and so they're just boys.
Yeah.
They didn't know any better.
Well, I kind of heard too that I think Dad was working. It might have been that same Saturday that happened, or it could have been another one where or maybe I've just blown the story out of proportion or a totally different angle from it. But that he was out there working, doing a show on a Saturday or whatever, and he started smelling it.
Oh.
And got to doing some investigating, and that's when he went in and he saw it hanging.
All of it upside down.
He didn't mention that. I don't remember him mentioning anything about desks, drawers, and all being full of it, chopped up and ready to go.
Yeah, but Reiner was, what I said, when you're supposed to be the respectable general manager of your place, and you don't even know what's going on in your own building.
Yeah.
And you have some other community leader there that's a businessman. And
Right. Oh man, you guys were into some serious mischief, man.
well, we never really thought ahead of what could possibly go wrong.
Right. Wow.
I remember that we called up a friend of mine because we got hungry, and it was family night at the Pizza Hut down at 17th and Mitchell. And so we called down and said we need to get pizza to go. And they said, well, it's family night, we don't have room here, but come on down, we'll have it for you. So we got down there and it wasn't ready. So I go back to the car and they say it's not ready. And so I became belligerent, went back in and asked why you made it ready. He said it's going to be in. It's not, and all these people. So they kind of told us to leave the premises. They'd bring it out to the car. So we did that, and my buddy had an El Camino that came. We had to get him to come pick us up to take us to get the pizza because we knew we shouldn't be driving.
Yeah.
And so we decided to open the pizza while we're driving out there, and we ended up with pizza on the ceiling of his car and all over the thing. He was about ready to kill me.
Yeah.
He was a college buddy of mine, and he had drilled a hole in the back of his El Camino. They had that, kind of like a pickup truck in the back. And in the winter, he'd go and take a barrel and put a barrel back there, drill the hole from the back into there, put in a tap, and so he'd put a keg back there and keep it iced down in the winter. And we'd drive along. You could have an open container in Missouri. We'd be driving along with a tap in the cab of the El Camino.
Oh man. Things he could get away with then.
Oh yeah.
What were you like in your 20s then when all of this was going on?
Oh, I would have been getting close to my 20s, Well, I
Because I remember you back. I can remember you from back when you had long hair, fairly long hair, and
had a beard for a while.
Yeah, and I can remember you. I guess just hanging around. I probably showing up at the radio station. I met you through Dad, whatever, however it was. But I can remember you.
Yeah.
And I thought I remembered you were probably college age anyway. Wow. That was the 70s.
Another New Year's story, because we kind of had that one I told you earlier. Another year, your dad and I and somebody else, I don't remember who it was, we were all out riding around after we'd been drinking and partying, and it was already New Year's Day, morning, like at 1:30 or whatever, and one of the part-time guys that was working for us at the radio station, he had talked your dad into letting him stay on to celebrate the New Year. So we were driving back uptown and had the station on. All of a sudden he started to play Beatles music and Seals and Crofts and all this stuff that was not country.
Oh yeah, well, I'm sure Dad loved that, but anyway.
And your dad was not enthused about that one little bit.
Man.
So the closer we drove to the station, we were saying, "Do you hear what he's playing now? I can't believe you're letting that happen. He shouldn't be working here," because we didn't like the guy that much. So your dad got up there, we got to the building, he storms into the control room, he told him, "We don't need your music around here, we don't need you either, you're fired." Sign. But he and I are friends now on Facebook, so.
Yeah. I could see a bunch of DJs playing pranks on each other.
Oh yeah.
Stuff. I mean, y'all kind of become a close-knit group and whatever. You're like, this will be fun, this will be funny.
Yeah.
Bunch of drinking buddies and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
We did well. Now, all you have is a closet with a computer put in it that runs the thing. Except
Right,
for
yeah.
Shift today.
Oh, let me tell you this. It's funny. I was on a job a couple weeks ago, and this guy was probably in his 30s anyway. Well, late 20s, around 30. And somehow, radio stations, this, whatever, came up. And we got to talking, and I don't know exactly what the story, but anyway, I mentioned that my dad was a disc jockey.
Uh-huh.
And when I was growing up as a kid, and he said, "What's that?"
Wow.
Disc jockey. I said, DJ. Back in the old days, they spun records, vinyl.
Uh-huh.
I said, they're the ones that control the music in the radio stations. Back in the days, I said, now it's all automated. Basically, all you got is somebody that babysits.
Yeah.
And but that blew my mind. He's like, I said, it was a disc jockey. What's that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I had never gotten that before.
Yeah.
Never gotten that before.
Yeah. Well, back when we were still downtown at the Howlett building, we'd go up, since we're on the 5th floor, the roof was stairways, you could go up on the roof at night. We'd go up there and we'd get some old junky records that weren't going to be hits or whatever.
Oh, no,
we'd take them, throw them like frisbees off the 5-story building in downtown St. Joe, trying to land them on the cleaner's roof across the street. Because we had a 1-hour cleaners or whatever it was. And so our aim was pretty good usually, and once in a while we'd go astray. And one time we were up there and we usually tried to clean up after ourselves, but apparently we hadn't done it one time. And a sliver of a record was still left out in the street. And the owner, the general manager of the station, gets out of his Cutlass Oldsmobile. And, he'd always wear the tie. He's kind of a heavy-set guy. So he gets out of his car, rush hour on Monday morning, whatever the morning was, goes out, puts his foot down, getting out of the car. He happens to put his heel down on this record and slips and falls on his butt in the middle of Frederick Avenue in downtown St. Joe. I wonder what the heck was a record doing laying out here in the street. So he goes up into the control room, was talking, might have been your dad for all I know, talking to whoever was on the air. Looks out the window and he can see records all over the rooftops of the buildings across the street.
Oh, God.
Well, so they had apartments over there, and some people would hang clotheslines up there, and we were trying to hit the clothing with the records. That was our actual target.
Yeah.
Not just throwing them, but trying to see if we could hit the clothing.
Oh my. That sounds like our little stuff where we throw snowballs at the city buses when they go by our neighborhood.
Huh.
We had a particular area, we stood there in the backyard, top of a little alley, man, and we knew we could hear the chains coming from that bus, you know, ching, 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 ching through the
It
snow.
was all about the timing, wasn't it?
It was all about the timing, man. We had a pile of snowballs ready to go.
Damn right.
Boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
down the side of that bus.
he
And they
would
just
stop
kept
that
on
bus
going.
every time.
Yeah, that's funny. So, you know, we all did mischievous things like that.
Yeah, well, back then it was simpler. I mean, for the most part, the things were harmless.
Right, yeah, you weren't hurting
Most of the
anybody.
time,
Yeah,
nobody's
we
gonna
didn't
get
hurt
hurt. Nobody was,
Right.
now, you know, you couldn't do that. Nobody has a sense of
I
humor.
was just about to say the exact same thing. Everybody's got a sense of humor anymore. All right, look, I'm gonna stop this. Yeah, that one died, but I had this one going, so it's cool. We didn't lose
Still
anything.
some evidence.